every Sunday we have a meetup, and this time we had a very interesting subject. One of the members, he presented a subject that I would like to share with you guys today. It is how to become a 1,000-year-old vampire. It is a thought experience, and obviously there's not such a thing as a vampire, as far as I know, at least. And we were discussing this, and it was a really interesting talk. We talked for 3 hours, really engaged in the subject. But like, try to imagine, how would this person be? Well, first of all, he would be very smart and have a lot of knowledge. Probably he read a lot of books. He has tremendous of experience. He's very confident, really centered in his own energy, believes tremendously in himself because he has been through a lot of things. He's very strong emotionally, and is very crafty and cunning. His social skills are unbelievable. He's a master of masters. Imagine him coming inside a cafe. He can almost steer the energy of people and things by just being there. Because by state transference, are you guys aware of this thing? Like, what you feel, other people feel, and when you're really centered, you can kind of affect the other people's mode. So other people would kind of react to him just being there, and he will, by subtleties, be able to influence things. He will also be very flexible in his communication, very flexible in his emotions. So the one with the biggest flexibility is usually the one that is controlling the frame, the situation. So he will be able to do a lot by very subtle things that you might not even notice that it is him that is steering everything, because you might not be even aware that it is him that is steering everything. Imagine looking in the eyes of this person. Well, if he would put down his facade, because he could choose to have a certain facade, if he choose to put down his facade and you looked into his eyes, this person with like tremendous knowledge, tremendous power, it might be even intimidating. And this person, we imagine in the meetup that he would be really dedicated to learning, and he would be like a child, curious about the world. This curiosity would have been developed and strengthened over the years, and he would have tried a lot of different fields. So he would be a master not only in one thing, but in many fields. And every field would contribute to another field as well. So he will be brilliant in many different things. Not only because he spent a lot of time on one field, because he had a lot of time, but also because every time you're learning something new, there is something you can bring some of the knowledge you have from something else to a new thing you're learning. So if you're learning one profession and then another profession, you can use some of the things from the first profession in the second one, a new perspective, a new way of thinking. And he would have done this many times. So he would have a very unique way of seeing things. He would be much more aware what is the truth, and much more, his intuition would have been developed a lot, and he would trust in it. Trust in that he would be able to handle any situation. He would have gone through different kinds of periods of time in history, maybe war, suffering. Maybe he would have had the experience of killing somebody, or seeing other people being killed or being murdered in front of him. He might have lived also in periods of time where things were going very well. He might have been in love a couple of times. He might have seen his loved ones die. He might have had all kinds of different interesting friends, and he might have had mentors in different fields. Sometimes he would feel alone, but he would be very stable in his emotions. He would not be so ecstatic. He would not go down so much, but there would be periods of time where he would go down and feel less optimistic, feeling, exploring, maybe more dark side of things. So let's say every 100 years he would go down, or every 50 years he would have like a crash a bit, crash a bit. And yeah, he would also explore being alone a lot. Like this would also be something he would explore for some years, maybe even 50 years, where he would basically isolate himself from everything and everyone. Exploring that side, exploring how is it to be alone with his self, being fed up with the world, maybe even. There would come a time where he would be such a crazy person or vampire or individual that for him to have a new realization, or for him to be challenged, will be very difficult. So he would play a game on a very big scale, or maybe on a very, very complicated scale sometimes. Not necessarily big. It could be big, like influencing a lot of people, but it could also be on a very complicated another level. And yeah, I mean, he would be a big player, not in the sense of like attracting the opposite sex necessarily, but he would be a big player of life. Like coming inside and everything would be just a playground for him. And so we were discussing this for a long time, and we were talking about also from another angle, like how would you become a 1,000-year-old vampire if you only had 20 years to become this person? Well, you would need to be dedicated to learning. Like you would need to learn fast, and you would want to experience a very big variety of things, and not necessarily dedicating many years on something, but dedicating a short amount of time on something, and getting really deep into it, and then changing to something else. Because like I mentioned earlier, when you learn something, the learning curve in the beginning is much quicker, and then it kind of goes on plateau. So you would maybe spend half a year in this, half a year in this, half a year in this, and then like change. Another thing that is very important to understand is that he would be this person that wants to go this path in life, to dedicate himself to learning and experiences, would have to be very emotionally strong, very endurant, and not get discouraged with when things don't go the way he wanted them to go, and be very honest about fears, and be able to push forward anyway in spite of fears. This person would need to learn to become very resilient to frustration and pain and failure, and would be honest enough to be able to understand and go forward anyway somehow, you know, being able to pick yourself up and do it anyway and continue in spite of all the failures, because there would be tremendous amount of failures, because he is all the time exploring and learning, not sitting still, pushing forward all the time. So failure would be a daily thing. Anyway, he would also want to design his whole life so it would be about learning experiences. So he would remove everything possible because there is a limited amount of time, 20 years, not 1,000 years. So time would be really limited. So he would want to optimize it as much as possible, removing obstacles that kind of drains his energy or drains his time, because making his whole environment about learning, his whole environment about not spending time on repetitive things that you need to do everything, but trying to optimize them. What do you guys think? We discussed this for 3 hours. We had a lot of interesting talks about this thing. Do you think this person would have ended up good or bad? We were discussing it, and we came to the conclusion that some vampires would probably become very awesome and good and giving and playing, and some would maybe become evil. Some would be lazy, but still with a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, in spite of that they were lazy. What do you think? You can write a comment below if you have any, suggestions on how to live your life in a way where you can become a 1,000-year-old vampire in 20 years. And it could actually be the case, because there is a guy called Aubrey de Grey that is one of the guys working on us living forever, basically, or 1,000 years. So it could be a reality. You could be one of the people that might just make it and become 1,000 years, because there's technologies out there that are being developed currently that will enable you to regenerate your body. And so leave a comment below, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.